I'm delighted to say we've got Kevin Walsh and Mickey Quinn with us to preview the weekend's actions. Kevin, I might start with you. You've got a new book out. It's called The Invisible Game. Can you tell us a bit about it?
It's just I suppose looking maybe outside the ordinary skills that have been coaches and stuff like that. So it's just looking a bit deep in, really, to be honest with you. The coaching side of it, I suppose, different type of personalities that you want to come across, and it's just, I suppose, it's about the experience over the last 10 years and what we've learned, and maybe the analysis of stuff and how to get into stuff a little bit deeper, and just to get the coaching and learnings going on as much as possible, and just throwing a few ideas out there, really.
Do you feel like it's something that we don't get enough of in our coverage of Gaelic games and in the conversations around Gaelic games? I do,
absolutely. Yeah, I think. Look, I suppose the one of the biggest things that we probably fail to see is who's impacting games, and it's not, you don't have to be on the ball all the time to impact games. So there's a huge amount of work done if it's done correctly, covering different spaces, getting into areas in attack and defence. They can have a massive impact, maybe one or two passes down the line. So. We've always probably hit at the things that look good and the flashy points, but it's probably the thousand unseen things that can make a team far better by players doing the simple stuff correct. But I suppose it's fair to players. Sometimes we expect those things to be done, but I do feel they're neglected in coaching, absolutely, and it just makes players a bigger impact for a team.
Okay, well, if anybody's interested in this, where can they get the book?
Excuse me?
If anybody's interested in this, where can they get their hands on a copy of the book?
Yeah, just at the minute it's out on Amazon. It'll be hitting the shops probably January, February. But at the minute, I suppose we'd hope to get in the shops for Christmas. But with the COVID situation and everything else, we just released it on Amazon at the minute, and we'll be hitting the shops in January, hopefully.
No, that's a fair point. Mickey, we've obviously talked a good bit about the analysis of the games with you actually analysing games, but it's interesting that this is something I think that you're drawn to as well. The quality of conversation around why teams are winning, how teams are winning. That's something you feel we could all just do a little bit better on, I suspect, as well.
Definitely, yeah. When you see Dublin and the level that they're after bringing things to, make no mistake, the work they're going to do in Cavan will be second to none in comparison to anyone else. The homework they do on teams is probably one of the reasons why they're at the level. They take no one for granted, and it was fairly obvious against me too that the switch was turned, and you hear different stories about players arriving for training early in Dublin and they're sitting down at laptops an hour or 2 hours beforehand, going through matchups, watching individual edits, all that kind of stuff. It's I suppose it's game smarts and willingness to improve the mental side of the game, and probably the game that it's not trained on the field. That's what Kevin's talking about a lot of it, that you kind of have to go from the theory or the video analysis and try and transfer it to the pitch. And I suppose that's the coaching side of things. That's the difficult part, and to transfer that knowledge to the players. So everyone's mad keen to try and come up with some way to try and break down the dubs, and at the moment it's trying to get that master plan in place and have the players to execute it.
Okay, well, look, we'll come back to the Cavan Dublin game, and maybe through the prism of the Donegal game in a while. But I want to start by talking about Mayo. And Kevin, I'm very interested in you've obviously come up against Mayo over the last number of years. You've seen them firsthand. You've done that level of work that Mickey's talking about there. Where have Mayo actually been good this year? Have they surprised you in any way? Are they getting back to a level where they can contend against Dublin?
Yeah, I was on your programme there a few weeks ago, and I would have said that even after a Connacht final, it would still be hard to know where this Mayo team are, because I suppose, look at the league is long over, new faces have come in, but there's huge, I suppose there's huge questions. There's definitely huge change in Mayo in personnel. So, if you look at what would have been the Warriors, I call them down over the year, like the likes of, Boyle, Harrison, Parsons, we'd say Vaughan, Andy Moore, and Higgins hasn't played much at all. He's only appeared for a few minutes this season, and Jamie O'Shea. So all those would be Warrior-type players. And, that while Mayo have a lot of changes there, it's really hard to know where they are at the minute. Now, they look really, really good in Galway in the league. And then I suppose Galway completely tightened up in the second game, where they saw that all-out attack wasn't going to work because you left to open the back. So, and then Mayo struggled a bit in the second half. They played quite well against Galway in the first half. Probably should be more up, but then ended up hanging on. So it's really hard to know where they are. I suppose it's a young fellas like Conroy. Young Moran as well. Carr only played last year. We haven't seen much of him this year. So I'm not even so sure that James Horton actually knows his best team, which might be a little problem. But, he's probably looking now and saying, well, we have a great chance of getting to another final. But they really have to be at their best to win this one.
What, in your opinion, Kevin, underpinned how Mayo went about those great All-Ireland finals of the last 5 years or so? Was there a particular theme that ran through it that James Horan can bring to the table again this year?
Yeah, look at it. They were, I've named the Warriors there and those guys who just, the ferocious work rate. They were continuously running off the shoulder. So, in particular against teams that wouldn't be awfully well set up, they would certainly be cutting down the middle 3 lanes. I spoke of the lanes before, and those middle 3 lanes Mayo would have done serious damage. I do think they come unstuck when those lanes are blocked up on them, and Tipperary would have been really good in the last game against Cork for blocking up those channels. So I'd say they'll probably a little bit of a template which worked against Cork, but they probably won't be straying too much from it, because I think Mayo do struggle to break down when people get well set up. So that was probably one of the biggest things that Mayo done really well. And I suppose even when they played Dubliners were so good and so athletic, but they would sometimes have left the middle open with Mayo. So they had seriously good games because they were both attacking and both making mistakes, but both were high intensity. And I think if Mayo's intensity is brought down, I think they struggle at times to when they're stopped up. They look a little bit clueless at that point. But look at the new players. It'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, Mickey, I think a lot of people are giving Tipperary a good shout on Sunday. Just that Mayo sometimes can struggle against opponents that they don't consider to be as worthy as Dublin, say.
Yeah, I think one of the things with Tipperary is that the firepower, and this is their second All-Ireland final in, I don't know, is it 5 or 6 years ago when they got to All-Ireland semi-finals. So, like with Michael Quinlivan and Conor Sweeney up front, they just offer something there that two calibre forwards that get starting on any and probably an unassuming player is Brian Fox, and what he offers them. I don't know, did he start a corner forward the last day, and he just has that freedom to read the game and that game smarts to get around, whether he's playing a sweeper or even picking up a dangerous player for the opposition. And the matchups are going to be really interesting. Who's going to match up with Colin O'Riordan? Paddy Durkin, Colin O'Riordan, probably fitness-wise and speed-wise well matched, but O'Riordan will probably have him in the air. So maybe Diarmuid O'Connor, someone like that. Then Aidan O'Shea, where is he going to play? Is he going to drift in and out from the full forward line? And that's probably where Tipperary might become unstuck. A player like Aidan, what he offers in the full forward line, he'll force teams to drop off and sit in front, and then they have the option of kicking long range points. So I think getting those matchups right, as most managers would tell you, between your own kickouts and opposition kickouts, and then getting your correct matchups, that goes a long way to your game plan running smoothly.
What do you think, Kevin, on that exact point in terms of Tipperary's specific threats that Mickey outlined there, and how that can actually target the specific weaknesses that Mayo sometimes expose?
I think what Mickey's saying there, I think it might actually suit Tipperary. I don't think they'll mind dropping somebody back if Aidan O'Shea goes inside. I do think if he's crowded out, he will struggle. I think, as Mickey has said, the calibre up front, in particular of the two guys, Sweeney and Quinlivan, they're as good as what's in the whole country. And I think Tipperary will be quite happy to leave space up front for those two guys. As I said, Fox is a real hard worker. The midfield, they may have an edge out there. So I do think it won't bother them if they have to come back and block up those channels, because a quick transition and those two boys up front, they're as lethal as the game is at the minute. And I think, even though they struggled by Limerick, It took a brilliant score to stay in the match. I think the confidence that came out of that, in particular the last one, Tipperary do go on confidence, and they couldn't come into it in a better way. But I just think they will set up that way. I think they leave as much space for the two boys up front. They have hard workers on both wings, and a quick transition, and that they will be certainly a little bit afraid of what Aidan O'Shea or anybody else brings into the full forward line. I think they'll try and crowd it out.
Mickey, what would you do if you were Michael Quinlivan on Sunday and you had Paddy Durkin on you and he was running the opposite way consistently? How do you counteract that?
Yeah, I think every football team is playing it now, and every Gaelic footballer needs to be able to play in multiple positions. You look at the Dubs, you look at Mayo, Aidan O'Shea, Conor Callaghan, these calibre players, and even Quinlivan's doing it himself. He started out as an inside forward. He's wearing 11 on his back. It's just rotation. If your man marker is bombing up the field, Paddy Durkin loves to go, pull him in deep to the goals, away from the threat that's up the field. So pull him in deep. He might want to be in there. So you got to keep changing things up. You look where Quinlivan popped up with his scores at the weekend. Probably let the play go past a little bit, sat on the outside, and then when it went past, he came on late. He can play it that way, or he can play similar to what Sweeney's doing, is sitting inside, winning the ball out in front of his man and trying to get a shot off quickly. So, and at the end of the day, what Sweeney and Quinlivan have in comparison to other forwards is they're big men. They can take their marks. They can win high balls. They're a threat for goals from high balls, but they're also lightning quick. So, for the likes of those guys, rotating and keeping defenders on their toes is going to be the main thing. But then, as what Kevin said, you want to keep those guys up closer to goal. You don't want those guys doing loads of donkey work coming back and tracking players. You want them to be fresh when the ball does come on the transition, that they can really capitalise.
Kevin, just final word on this Mayo team. Do you actually see this team winning in All-Ireland at any point before the expiration of certain players like Aidan O'Shea and Lee Keegan? Do you think that they will get their hands on an All-Ireland medal before it's all said and done?
No, it's a really difficult question on the basis that the team has changed. I've outlined a lot of players who have actually gone, and I think they've gone unnoticed a lot without, it hasn't been driven out there by the media. So it's kind of a new team, and I suppose one huge thing that's stopping that, giving a clear answer, is that Dublin are there and they seem to be as strong as ever. And to win All-Ireland, they're going to have to be Dublin in Croke Park, which is another issue. And to say that they will win All-Ireland, it's hard to say, to be honest. This weekend will tell a lot, but there is a lot of new players there. I just feel there's a lot of talk, there'll be a lot of pressure as well to win it if they get there. There's actually a lot of pressure on this weekend, because you've mentioned the fact that they're carrying a hot favourite tag now, and this Tipperary team are no mugs, and so they're going to have to rise themselves massively for this game, and then rise it again, and that'll be in Croke Park if they can play the weekend. So at the minute, are they ready for this weekend? I haven't seen enough to say that they are to beat Dublin, and it's going to be hard to beat Tip.
How big a factor is that Croke Park factor when you are going up against the Dubs? Obviously, you guys would have had to go up against the Hill in 2018.
I look at it. It is a big factor, and it's something I'll have talked about in the book, because I would say that before even went to the league final back in 2018. Look at it. It's like this. If you're home, you're home, and I think you'll see a lot of games that goes to the home advantage. So it is home, and don't get away from that. I suppose when I was playing myself, home for Dublin was Parnell Park, and they came into Croke Park with the rest of the teams as they came in. So things have changed the last number of years because of crowds and stuff. So, but familiarity like that is definitely worth a few points to you. So that's probably, if you even look at the bookie prices, you'll find that Dublin away from home against the same opposition will be a far different price as they are at home. So what's the reason for that? And again, I'm not as smart as actuaries, but they put that together. So I suppose the facts say that it is an advantage. So it is something that's worth a few points, and that has got to be got over to win All-Ireland now as well.
Is that fair?
Excuse me?
Is that fair?
Look at it. It's fair for getting crowds into the ground, and I can understand, the massive amounts. But I would say you're looking at semi-final stages for the last number of years, and you're not getting anything over 50,000. So if a home team were in Croke Park, I would say what would be fair might be to bring it to Páirc Uí Chaoimh or something like that. So it is a semi-final, and it will take the crowds as required. So, you know, is it fair? I suppose home advantage is an advantage, so it's probably not as fair as I'd like it to be.
Yeah, I think that's the point. You said it very well. Home is home, and the Dubs are home in the All-Ireland semi-final every year that they win Leinster. It's a nice little handy added bonus for them, and maybe we should be having that conversation in the downtime, and actually that might be one of the things that we could change post-COVID. Mickey, you had your 5-point plan for how Meath would be able to beat the Dubs, and I don't think they did any of the 5 points ultimately. They played well for about 30 seconds, and they were a disaster after that. Can Cavan do something different? What will Cavan bring that will be different?
Yeah, I probably sat down on that Saturday evening keen to look at those few things and start looking at them really in detail for the first half and give up after that. You know, I think one thing that Cavan are going to bring that you can see it from the Ulster Championship is that willingness to take risk, and you know, their psyche that they're not afraid. They've been behind 10 points, 7 points, 8 points. The games have been stacked against them, but they always manage to keep coming back and keep coming back. So that side of things where you see Meath might have dropped their heads, and the psychology side of things that the confidence drained out of them, that Cavan might be able to last longer than previous teams so far this year with Dublin. You know, the things that they need to work on, their poor starts. You just can't afford to offer Dublin a 10-point head start at half-time like they did against Monaghan and Down. So that's something that, you know, they worked on against Donegal, and they started really well. Stopping the running game was an area that I pointed out that looked like they were in bother with. But against Donegal, again, they shored up the middle three channels that Kevin mentioned, and made Donegal kind of come through there, which there was full of numbers and got huge turnovers. I think Donegal had 47 attacks in that game, 12 scores, I think 9 shots off target, and 26 of those attacks ended up negative turnover. So that was 26 attacks that came straight back up that Cavan got. To get that kind of joy against Donegal, it's something that we wouldn't have expected, and to get anywhere near that against Dublin, that's what they want. They want to force turnover. So a few points, their own kickouts, managing their own kickouts is going to be huge. Everyone talks about, you know, go long against the Dubs to have Thomas Galligan, Gerard Kieran at midfield. If you're going to go long against Dublin, it's got to be long and quick to a mismatch. But Dublin are really cute at slowing down those kickouts or getting numbers to the breaking ball. So I think Galligan in goals is going to play a key role, and we've seen Brodie for Laois do it also, that Dublin almost let the keeper come out and they try and send him down a channel and turn him over. But if the likes of Raymond Galligan can give a ball out short and somehow get onto the back of it and win it back and drive at Dublin, that's going to be an extra man going forward that I think Cavan can utilise. But I think the thing with them is that you have to keep mixing up your game plan and changing from one to the other, short kickouts, long kickouts, and keep changing things. And I suppose that's the thing against Dublin, that you try and perfect one game plan, and if it goes out the window after 5-10 minutes, then you have to have plan B, plan C, and you know, I'm not sure if many teams in the country can even offer that.
Yeah. Kevin Walsh, what's that actually like to prepare for the Dubs and have your plan B and C? It's the old Mike Tyson line about having a plan until you get a punch in the mouth.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a massive task for Cavan in particular. You know, I'd have to say, just on the Cavan side, Cavan were absolutely superb against Donegal. I thought the way they fought was unreal. You mentioned early on about maybe where Mayo might take a team for granted or whatever it is. I think Cavan are slightly the same way. And if you look, you know, they struggled with Antrim. They came back late against Down. But, you know, if you're to look at the Donegal game with the 2 black cards, and I think we were talking about impacting games, things that impact games, you know, that wasn't even spoke about. The 2 black cards, for me, were very dubious. And, you know, for that to happen and for them to fight the way they fought and to win that game like they won it, showed a massive spirit. I suppose the advantage of that was the pitch would be far narrower. The sidelines were almost touching the stands up there. So I think that the plan A, B or C when the Dubs get the massive amount of space, Cavan will probably struggle with it, to be honest. And I think they'll work their boots off. But Dublin just have those extra gears with all the different type of players they have. And I know we can have all the plans and A, B, C, and D, but as Aidan O'Brien would always, you look at Aidan O'Brien, he has to have a Group 1 horse to win the Derby. Like Group 2, he doesn't win it. So you put as many plans to get the best out of your players that you can for that situation. And it's just going to be, it's really hard. You can try a number of things with Dublin, but the running game in Croke Park, it's wide open. It'll be really, really tough. I think Cavan will bring it to half time and stuff where but the pace will probably catch them out at that point. But really, yeah, look, it's really difficult. Dublin are the seasoned team completely. They know how to win these matches, so very, very hard to see Cavan turn them over.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Are you both predicting ultimately a Mayo Dublin final, or do I sense that, Kevin, you're actually going for Tipperary to win that game?
I think that's going to be a close game. Mayo have the experience, the Division 1 experience, but they also have got relegated. So they've probably got relegated on the back of maybe change of personnel. So it's the personnel to see are they netted together well enough. They have a lot of young lads, and it's great to see that the team is trying to evolve. But that Tipperary side, we come up against them in 2016, and we got a lot of flack for our performances in it. But I have to give credit to Liam Kearns and Tipperary. They were rightly up for that. And I remember I think we missed about 1-4 at the very start, and then we were very poor after that. Confidence drained out, and Tipperary they really were really very, very good, and the big players stood up. So again, they're capable of doing that when they get confidence. And I watched the semi-final against Mayo the following game, and I think Mayo had only 3 points scored in 30 minutes, and I think the cornerback was dispossessed on the sideline, and Mayo had no chance at all in the first 30 minutes where they really shut them out, and that kind of a game plan could upset Mayo again. So I wouldn't say that Tipperary haven't got a great chance.
Okay, all right. Look, we're actually out of time, but great stuff this morning. My thanks to Mickey Quinn and to Kevin Walsh for joining us. You can get Kevin's new book, The Invisible Game, out on Amazon now. OTB AM live weekday mornings from 7:30. With thanks to Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. You can listen to us as just a radio show if you want on OTB Sports Radio, and you can get that on your smart speaker. And I know loads of you are getting smart speakers under the Christmas tree this Christmas as well. So just tell Alexa to play OTB Sports Radio, and away you go. Tomorrow, Gordon Darcy, Champions League review, GA build-up as we look forward to the All-Ireland semi-finals this weekend. And Don McLean's going to join us to talk to us about his new book. Right now, we're going to hear from the former Irish footballer and Premier League star Kevin Doyle, talking about brain injuries and concussions in football.